never again stand behind the seal of the President of the United States of America. Never again. Never again.
So if you haven't noticed already, Kamala Harris has chosen what her closing message will be to the American people. The problem is this: undecided voters are not only rejecting it, but they're slamming her for the type of message she is using.
The last few days, the vice president has started to talk about Donald Trump as a fascist, as someone who's spoken approvingly of Hitler. Raise your hand if you've heard about those comments. Is that something that you'll factor into your vote? Linda.
It's horrible that she's saying that about him. If he was saying that about her, everybody would be up in arms. I just don't think that's right.
What
if it was Kelly who heard the president say that? I think that he had a responsibility to resign the day that was said.
I can't. I think part of the reason why I'm being pushed towards Trump so strongly is that I find that the Democrats and the left just keep going straight to Hitler all of the time. It's so exhausting. I think it just detracts from, it pushes me away from their position, and it's so hyperbolic that it makes it impossible to have good discussions. And I think it ruins the discourse.
Does anybody think it's valuable or something you want to hear from the vice president? Anybody? Raise your hand if you think this is something that's important for her to be talking about. Anybody? Okay.
What do you say to those people, especially ones who might be concerned that, doing a big closing argument speech at a place like the Ellipse, maybe leaning more into talking about the threat of Trump to democracy and not his threats that you see to the economy?
One of the things that I love about the American people is we can hold many thoughts at once. And one of the highest priorities for the American people right now is bringing down cost, and that is the priority of my agenda and will be the priority of my work when I'm elected President of the United States.
So she won't answer the question because she can't answer the question. Plus, she's admitting that inflation has not been a top priority of her and Biden's administration the last 4 years.
A growing number of top Democrats tell us privately they feel Vice President Harris will lose, even though polls show a coin toss finish 11 days from now. And this is especially true when you think about the fact that the Democrats have spent $1 billion, nearly twice as much as Republicans, over the past 3 months to polish her image and soil former President Trump. But clearly it's not working. Now let's get to the bottom line.
If you think this video sucks, please hit the like button and notifications, subscribe, and share it. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Now, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, that people know him by, who's also a billionaire himself, I thought what he said about this Trump rhetoric in regards to him admiring Hitler, it just isn't going to work. Watch this.
The Jan 6 deal has been in the market forever. This rhetoric from people saying Trump is a Nazi and a fascist in the market forever. Do you really want to spend your closing statements on old stuff that's already needled into 45% of the country that hates him?
Is it the old news if he was not running to be president?
Except think about what you're trying to replace. You're trying to tell somebody.
Always relevant.
You should care more about Nazi Trump than the cost of gasoline, your rent, and the protein you buy for your family.
That is literally the argument. Okay,
and I think that's a losing argument.
The argument is, you should care more about whether the president of the United States is a fascist and admires Nazis than you should about the cost
really
of gasoline
believes that.
today. You don't think that's
no,
a fair
a lot of Americans.
That's so funny because Kevin O'Leary was proven to be right over these talking, babbling heads, and they just believe what they want to believe, not the truth.
And the bottom line is, you keep trying to focus on the whole Hitler message, but at what cost? Right? The cost is you're not going to be able to tell voters why they should vote for you. So,
however, her problem is on the political landscape. She is literally stuck between a rock and a hard place. She has nothing substantive to attack Trump with, so she can only resort to lies and calling him Hitler and a fascist. But her other choice is to tell Americans about herself, which is just trading one problem for another, telling the American public who she is. Does she tell us which version of herself she is? Her old self, which is too liberal for her to win the election? Or her new self, which too many Americans simply see that as the lie it is?
Adolf Hitler invaded Poland when I was 9 years old. He murdered my parents and most of our family. I know more about Hitler than Kamala will ever know in 1,000 lifetimes. For her to accuse President Trump of being like Hitler is the worst thing I've ever heard in my 75 years living in the United States. I know President Trump, and he would never say this, and Kamala Harris knows this. She owes my parents and everybody else who was murdered by Hitler an apology for repeating this lie.
The fundamental thing about this election is the immigration, it's the economy. That's what people truly care about. And I think Michael Singleton on CNN pointed that out very nicely. Watch.
Donald Trump has had a pretty simple message that most voters understand. Taxes are an issue. Inflation is a problem. The cost of living is a problem. Most people agree. The polls suggest that. Immigration is an issue. Most people agree. Foreign policy is an issue. Do you want your sons and daughters going to fight another long, expensive war? Most Americans would say no. I think for the most part, he's been very effective at executing a critique of problems that the vast majority of people would agree with.
Solutions? I have the same question for Donald Trump. Where are the solutions?
So I think most people would say, yeah, we should have some level of deportation. You know, we can agree or disagree with that from a policy perspective. I know your thoughts on that,
Catherine.
That's
not what he says.
But he does say that.
No, he says mass deportation.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the immigration point,
not the majority.
Trump is actually super clear. That might be the one place where he's
but also on the economic issue, Trump says, look, I want to lower taxes for working class people. Most people will say, okay, that makes sense to me. Lower taxes. I don't want to pay more than I have to. That is a very simple.
Trump's solution is simple. Go back to his policies he had in place when he was president, when immigration and inflation were at historic lows.
Real panic is coming from the numbers as it pertains to early voting. And of course, ABC reported on that, and George Stephanopoulos, he had to get off of it because he doesn't like seeing the idea that Trump is going to win. Take a look at this.
Check this out. In 2020, Republicans were only 33% of early voters. Now it is up to 40%. So in this big state with a big Latino population, a whole lot of union members, some warning signs, at least early on in early voting for Democrats, George.
And Rick, Generals John Kelly, Mark Milley have called Donald Trump a fascist. Kamala Harris agrees, and we have some polling on that.
Stephanopoulos is just unbearable to listen to. He's so lopsided. He can't even see the truth. Thanks for watching, and please hit the like button.